everybody. So welcome to Learning at Home with Mrs. V. So this week we are going to be focusing on, for Google Classroom, we're going to be focusing on reviewing adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Now within this lesson, I'm going to also point out some things that are also review how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, or how to add an improper fraction into a whole number. So we're going to be reviewing that information as well. And we learned that before we did this because this is something that you're going to have to apply while adding and subtracting your mixed numbers. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing, and you'll remember we have a list of things that we need to do when we're adding or subtracting mixed numbers. We need to go through and take a look at the fraction and make sure they have a common denominator. So here on this first one, we notice it's addition, and we're looking here and we've got sixths on both sides. So we're good to go with adding. So the next thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and add the whole numbers. So the whole numbers, we've got 3 plus 4. So a basic fact, 3 plus 4 we know is 7. So we've got 7 whole. Then we take a look at the numerators. We don't do anything to the denominators. The denominator just comes over here. So all we have to do is take a look at that denominator, and we're going to keep the same number of pieces in the whole. So that's not anything we have to do anything to. Simply write it down over here to the side. So now we have another basic fact, 4 plus 3. And remember I said that you can, if you need to, if you want to, you can write down 4 plus 3 right here, and then keep going, and then go ahead and add those numerators, okay? So we've got 7 for the whole numbers. We've got that done. Second step is adding those numerators. So we've got 4 plus 3. So now we've got 7 and 7 sixths. Well, now I notice that I have an improper fraction. So I'm going to need to take the whole out of this fraction and put it in with the whole number. Just makes sense to do that. That's where it belongs. So we've got 7 sixths. Well, I know that when my numerator and denominator are the same, I have a whole. Well, I do have 6 sixths here. So that equals 1. All right. And then I have 1/6 left. And I know that because 6 plus 1 equals 7. And there's my numerator, okay? So I have to add this 1. I have to put that 1 in with the whole number. So it's just like saying 7 plus 1 plus 1/6, which is what I have over here. So I've got my 1 plus my 1/6. So I'm adding that to my whole number, okay? Let me show you that again. So we've got the whole numbers, we added up. Then we put the numerators on the top together as a basic fact addition problem, and we just drag that denominator across. Then we had this basic fact, so we went ahead and added those numerators. That's where we got the 7. So we've got 7 and 7 sixths. That's an improper fraction. So we decompose this. We know that 6 sixths equals 1. 6 sixths equals 1. And then we had 1/6 left over. 6 plus 1 equals 7. That's our numerator. Then we have to add that to our 7 whole. So I went ahead and took this and I put this up here with the 7 whole. 7 plus 1 plus 1/6. Well, that equals 7 plus 1 equals 8. And then we have our 1/6. Okay? All right. And I know we've shown this with pictures before. We decomposed here. Remember, you can draw. So drawing a picture, you can decompose, or you can divide. So there are other ways for you to do that. So if we actually showed this, if we showed 7 sixths, so we can show that with a pizza. And we're dividing our pizza into 6 pieces. And we have 1/6, 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4 sixths, 5 sixths, 6 sixths. So we've got 6 sixths or 1 whole. But we don't have 6 sixths. We have 7. So we have to have another whole pizza. And again, we have to divide that into 6 pieces. And we have one more piece because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 slices. So that gives us 1/6 of the other pizza. So this is a visual representation of how we decompose that. Okay? Remember, you can also divide. Well, when you're dividing this, you're going to remember that this division problem is the same as, or this fraction is the same as a division problem. So we can show that as 7 divided by 6. All right, so how many 6s are there in 7? Now we can't go over. Remember, we've talked about that Price is Right yodeler. If you get too much, you go over and you lose. So let's see. 1 6 would be 6, 2 6s would be 12, and the yodeler would go over the edge. You've got too many, too much. So we've got 1 times 6 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. So we have 1 as our remainder, which is your numerator, and then 6 as your denominator. So there's where that 1/6 comes from. So this is how we would divide to find that out. And again, here, there's that 1 plus 1/6 that I marked right here. This is the visual representation. This is the decomposition. This is the division. Okay, 3 different ways. All right. Now, I'm going to move on to my first subtraction problem here. So my subtraction problem, I'm going to follow the same steps. The only thing that's going to be different is the operation. All right, so I have 14 7/8 minus 7 3/8. Right away, you have to look at those denominators. I'm okay because the denominators are the same. They are in common. So I can go ahead and do the process. So I'm going to do my whole numbers first. So I've got my 14 minus my 7. So I'm going to look at that first. 14 minus 7 I know is 7. Then I'm going to drag my denominator across since they have it in common. Then I can go ahead and I can write the subtraction problem up here if I want to. 7 minus 3. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to go ahead and subtract that. It is a basic fact. And so I've got 7 whole. 7 minus 3 is 4. And then I've got my 8ths. Now, I can just hear some of you who I know your divisibility rules really well. You are looking at this and you're saying, Mrs. V, I'm noticing something. And I would tell you, yes, of course, this can be simplified. All right, so I've got 4 and I have 8. So I'm going to think about the factors of 4 and 8. Well, with 4, I've got 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So my factors are 1, 2, and 4. All right? So what about 8? Well, that would be 1 times 8, 2 times 4. Oh, okay, so wait a minute. So they share 2 and they share 4. Well, I'm going to go with the biggest one. I'm going to go with the greatest common factor, which is 4. I can divide that. And then I have 7. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 7 1 and 1/2. Now, if you're still unsure about simplifying, if you get this answer and you're like, I'm not really sure, and I'm not really sure how to do this, you can go ahead and circle that and call it a day. But if you see that they share the same factor, you can factor that amount out and simplify it to lowest terms and then circle for your answer. All right? So let's move on to the next problem. It is an addition problem. We need to look to see, do they have common denominators? They do. So we can go to step 1. So I've got 12 plus 8. I'm going to add those whole numbers. 12 plus 8, I know, let's see, 8 plus 2 is 10. And then I've got another 10, which would be 20. Now, since I have common denominators, all I have to do is put that denominator there, and I'm ready to go on to the numerators. Write my basic fact up here. Now, all I have to do is add that numerator. So I've got 20, 5 plus 6 is 11 ninths. Look at that. Got another improper fraction. We need to make it proper. All right, so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking about the way that I want to do this. Well, you all know that I like to decompose the numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and decompose. And I'm going to say, all right, how many ninths equals 1 whole? Numerator and denominator have to be the same. So that would be 9 ninths. And that equals 1. All right, so if I have 9 ninths that I take out, I started with 11 of them. So I have to count up from 9 to get 11, 10, 11. So that gives me 2 ninths. All right, so I've got 1 plus 2 ninths. And I already have the whole number of 20, so I need to put the 20 here too. So now I've got 20 plus 1 plus 2 ninths. Well, I know 20 plus 1 is 21. All right, so I've got that done. And then I just put the 2 ninths up here. Now, let's take a look at this. This last one, we could factor something out. Let's take a look at this. So what are my factors of 2? Well, my factors of 2 are only 1 and 2. Now, does 3 have a factor of 2? Well, let's see. 1 times 9, 3 times 3. Nope. So they don't share a factor. So that one can't be simplified. All right. We could also show this, 11 ninths. We could show that by drawing a picture, just like we did here, or you could go ahead and do the division part. Either way. You can do either way in order to figure out what you need to add to that whole number in order to take that whole out of this improper fraction. Okay, so whichever step you like to do. If you like to decompose, do that. If you like to draw a picture, do that. If you like to divide, you can do that. You know, it just depends on what you like to do. All right, now let's take a look at this last problem we have. We have a subtraction problem. If you find yourself forgetting to pay attention to the operation, you could go ahead and circle it to remind yourself, and then your eyes will be drawn to that each time and you won't do the wrong operation. I'd hate for you to get one wrong just because you did the wrong operation. All right, so let's go ahead and look. We've got the denominators are the same. So we've got 12 and 12. So we're just going to have to drag that across. So then I'm going to look at my whole numbers. I've got 13 minus 9, and then my fraction is 6/12 minus 4/12. So I'm going to go ahead and do step 1. 13 minus 9, which I know is 4. And I can check back this way and say, did I do the right thing? Well, if I have 9 and I count up 4 times, 10, 11, 12, 13, I've got my 13. So I can always check that. All right, then I have my 12ths I need to write down. Then here's my basic fact of 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4, you can write it out if you need to, or if you can just do 6 minus 4 equals 2, that's fine too. All right? Now, I know some of you are saying, wait a minute, Mrs. B, I'm looking at 2/12. Well, let's go ahead and write that down here. 4 and 2/12. Well, what are my factors of 2? 1 and 2. What are my factors of 12? 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Well, I said 2 and 6, so they share a factor of 2. So I can factor out or divide out that 2, and so I end up with 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 4 and 1/6 is the simplified version of 4 and 2/12. So if you see that and you want to go ahead and simplify this or put it in lowest terms, be my guest. So the answer is 4 and 2/12 or 4 1/6. All right? So this is what I want you to focus on today. So for your Google Classroom, actually for this week. Now, remember, we're adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So we're following those steps that we talked about in class. We're also looking to see, do we have an improper fraction? If so, we need to figure out how to put that whole piece that is in that improper fraction in with that whole number. Remember, there are 3 ways you can do that. You can decompose, you can draw, or you can divide. One of the 3 Ds that we talked about in class. And you have those in your notes, and I also have provided some notes for you on Google Classroom. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or to ask me in class. And I want you to keep watching, keep thinking, always stay curious, and I'll see you next time.